I accuse myself of the following crimes. I have seduced party members of both sexes. I've been to the proletarian areas. I deliberately contracted syphilis in order to spread the disease to my wife and other party members. Together with other agents, I have counterfeited banknotes, wrecked industrial machinery, polluted the water supply, guided Eurasian rocket bombs to targets on Airstrip 1 by means of coded radio signals. I stand here a victim of the influence of Emmanuel Goldstein, guilty on all counts. I'm glad I was caught. I was mentally deranged. Now I am cured. I ask only for you to accept my love of our leader. I ask only to be shot while my mind is still clean.
Michael Foucault's Discipline and Punishment is a study of the ways in which society punishes those who break the rules that structure its very existence. It also serves as an important understanding of how these same forces within society influence its masses to conform to these rules and self-regulate on their daily proceedings. Within his readings, the influence of power to engineer control over a person or people's actions is central. An example removed from us today by nearly 80 years is Joseph Stalin's use of the show trials throughout 1930s Soviet Russia. These trials were used to sentence enemies of the state to imprisonment and death. Those guilty parties included people who were considered dangerous to the running of the Soviet system. However, also among those persecuted were the falsely accused, who served as an example for the rest of the nation to fall in line and remain obedient. Some were even members of the government who, through his paranoia, Stalin considered a threat to his rule. In Societal's Reaction to Deviance, Reich and Greta describes deviance as the following. Deviance is the designation, a label, that is attached to some individuals and not to others. Social reaction proponents depart from earlier approaches by placing attention on the psychological and social consequences experienced by individuals labeled deviant. Those who are accused of attempts to undermine their society are considered treacherous. In the case of the Soviet system, this had dire consequences. While the show trial served as propaganda to the masses, terrifying the people into conformity, the state would also utilize positive reinforcements to counterbalance this. This served as propaganda in its own way. An example is the Stakhanovite movement of 1938. Andrei Stakhanov, a miner who allegedly exceeded expectations with the amount he was able to achieve in a single day of work, kicked it off. As a result of his feat, he was put on a pedestal for the rest of the nation. As the Stakhanovite movement began, workers would be encouraged to strive to his level of production. The Stakhanovite movement was just one method that would serve the need for positive reinforcement. The show trials would bully the people of the nation into regulating their behavior in accordance with what was expected of them, while the reinforcement of the positive messages about the state were implemented to make people believe in the system they lived in. China's social credit system is an ongoing example of engineering control, and its contrasts with Soviet Russian methods are many. In 2014, the state of China issued the outline of a plan to implement a social credit system, which judges how valued an individual's contribution to the nation is. This is done through assigning a numbered score to a person, which is associated with a multitude of different pieces of information that is gathered about them. These pieces of information can include their purchase history, their behavior, their kinds of opinions that they put online, the kinds of people they associate with, among other factors. Many articles and videos discussing the topic have used the example of someone playing video games for hours on end as someone who will have their score lowered, while someone who is buying diapers is most likely a parent and earns points for being responsible. In his chapter on panopticism, Foucault uses the example of a town being locked down due to a plague. This is what he has to say about it, following his description. The exile of the leper and the rest of the plague do not bring with them the same political dream. The first is that of a pure community, the second is that of a disciplined society. Two ways of exercising power over men, of controlling their relations, of their dangerous mixtures. The plague-stricken town, traversed throughout with hierarchy, surveillance, observation, writing, the town immobilized by the functioning of an extensive power that bears in a distinct way all over the individual bodies. This is the utopia of the perfectly governed city. The irony here is what Foucault describes as the actual image of a dystopian, authoritarian, controlled system. Most articles and videos that discuss China's social credit system refer to it with worries of a dystopian future for the nation. The vast majority of the discussions or broadcasts on the topic are quick to mention the ever-watchful eye of Big Brother, drawing George Orwell comparisons. The gamifications of obedience, as many have put it, works to positively reinforce an individual's commitment to being the most well-behaved citizen they can possibly be. Better behavior, better life choices, at least in the praying eyes of the state, and better purchases means a higher social credit score. This means a higher reputation in society, similar to how Stakhanov was held up as a national icon in Soviet Russia. It also means more opportunities and easier access to luxuries in society. Someone with a high credit score may not have to pay a deposit in order to rent a car or a bicycle. They are rewarded for living up to the ideal image of the Chinese citizen. Those with a low credit score will have to pay deposits for luxuries and could eventually be excluded from opportunities. They can be turned down for jobs, lose friends, colleagues, and partners due to their credit score. The credit system will also affect citizens who are seen to have close affiliation with someone who has a lower credit score, dragging them down. Because of this, personal connections will no doubt be severed due to the pursuit of a higher credit score and a more fulfilling life. Ultimately, those who conform to the ideal citizenship are rewarded. They are held aloft as the glass ceiling all citizens should aspire to. Those who lag behind are excluded from opportunities and luxuries, and are labelled something akin to a deviant or a leper. Works of fiction have long considered the oppressive rule of an authoritarian system. A Japanese animation by the name of Psycho-Pass follows a group of law enforcers who operate in a dystopian future setting. Individuals' mental states are gauged through the collection of information gathered about them. It is then decided how likely they are to commit a crime or be a danger to society. The weapon of justice that is used by the main character is a gun, appropriately named the Dominator, a gun that scans a target and decides how mentally sound the target is. Depending on the result, the gun will potentially activate for use, either to stun or to kill. Those who are stigmatized in this setting as dangerous to society are weeded out. In the opening of Selections from Stigma, Irving Goffman explains the origin of the term stigma. The Greeks, who were apparently strong on visual aids, originated the term stigma to refer to the bodily signs designed to expose something unusual and bad about the moral status of a signifier. The signs are cut or burnt into the body and advertised that the bearer was a slave, a criminal, or a traitor, a blemished person, someone to be avoided, especially in public places. Ultimately, in the context that is being discussed here, the deviant, the leopard, the stigmatized person, it all refers to the same thing. He or she who has been picked out by the rule makers in society, made an outcast, and used to serve as an example for others not to be like. The guilty individuals in the show trials, as well as those with low credit scores in China, serve as a reminder to others in society why conformity and obedience should be maintained, always. But what of the future? China's social credit system will be made mandatory in 2020 for all citizens. Those who take part in the system now, while it is still optional, will have a head start and already be in favourable positions come 2 years. But what about the West? Many online sources, including a video by the YouTube channel The Vigilant Ones, compares China's own predicament to how Facebook and Google survey people's online activity, keeping a watchful eye on everyone who uses their service, and even displays ads to individuals based on what is known about their personal tastes and browsing topics. It leaves us with one question. Is Big Brother's surveying gaze focused solely on China, or is Orwell's premonition coming to life for us too?